Enter now into this space, this church that is made of its people and not bound by its walls. Enter knowing that we are still connected in our isolation by the Spirit of life. Enter knowing we are still connected, if not by our breathing together, then at least by the pulse of electrons over air. Enter with all your worry and all your joy. Bring your anxieties and your gifts of comfort. As we light our chalice, may your own home light burn brightly as well. It is good to be together, however we may gather. Let us open our minds and our hearts to one another as we gather again to worship. Welcome to this live stream from the Unitarian Church of Los Alamos. Whoever you are, wherever you are on your life's journey this morning, whether you are joining us live or you are watching us later, you are welcome here in our community. A few announcements before we begin this morning. First, keep your eyes on your email for our Zoom schedule for this week. We have another slate of events happening over our Zoom meeting room for people of all ages, so check in with that and participate if you can. We love seeing your faces, however we can see your faces. I miss your faces. Check in on Zoom. Check in, too, keeping in touch with us by email or by Facebook. Check your announcements emails that will be coming from us, and check in with me by email, too, or by Facebook Messenger if you need to have a pastor during this trying time, or if you need some more one-on-one time. Give me a call, leave a message. We all have access to our voicemail still, and we'll answer that. And I can even make a FaceTime appointment with you if you would like. And so we begin this morning's worship from this unusual setting. Give yourself this next half hour or so to take a break from all other things you are doing. Take this time out of time that we set for ourselves every Sunday. Close down all the other tabs in your browser that you might have open right now. Turn off your television, silence your cell phone, and take this moment to connect with all of us. Breathe in and out now, and pause, and connect, and let us begin. We begin in a spirit of prayer and reflection. Feel your feet grounded to the earth. Feel the air that fills your lungs and releases. We begin with a candle for all our joys this week, large or small, the things that have opened our heart, the things that have delighted us, the things that have brought us solace in trying times. We light a candle for all our sorrows this week, the things that have broken our hearts, the weight and the sadness we might feel, the anxiety and the uncertainty. Eternal and beloved, gracious source of all life and all love, we come together this morning with gratitude for this time out of time that we set apart so that we might become more fully present to ourselves, to each other, and to that which we call holy. May our joys be celebrated together, our wounds be healed together, our hearts be open together. Spirit, give us pause in this time out of time. Give us pause so we might forgive ourselves and each other for all the petty foibles that might grate on our spirits. Give us pause so we might find the beauty and the joy in all the familiar and mundane moments. Give us pause so we might find delight in even the smallest thing that feeds our souls. Give us pause to breathe, that in each inhalation and exhalation we find a sense of our unbreakable connections. Isolated as we may feel in this moment, help us find a sense of your wide grace within our narrow confines of space and being. Grant us courage and strength and peace in the week to come. All this we pray in the names of those known and unknown, present and absent, remembered and forgotten, in the names of all the helpers of humankind. Amen.
So, this is our story for today. We're going to let our helpers, our storyteller helpers, get set up. Our story for today is called The Rainbow Fish by Marcus Pfister. A long way out in the deep blue sea, there lived a fish. Not just an ordinary fish, but the most beautiful fish in the entire ocean. His scales were every shade of blue and green and purple, with sparkling silver scales among them. Ooh, there's the rainbow fish. The other fish were amazed at his beauty. They called him Rainbow Fish. "Come on, Rainbow Fish," they would call. "Come and play with us." But the rainbow fish would just glide past, proud and silent, letting his scales shimmer. One day, a little blue fish followed after him. "Rainbow Fish," he called, "wait for me. Please give me one of your shiny scales." They are so wonderful, and you have so many. You want me to give you one of my special scales? Who do you think you are? Cried the rainbow fish. Get away from me. Shocked, the little blue fish swam away. He was so upset, he told all his friends what had happened. From then on, no one would have anything to do with the rainbow fish. They turned away when he swam by. What good were the dazzling, shimmering scales with no one to admire them? Now, he was the loneliest fish in the entire ocean. One day, he poured out his troubles to the starfish. I really am beautiful. Why doesn't anybody like me? I can't answer that for you, said the starfish. But if you go beyond the coral reef to a deep cave, you will find the wise octopus. Maybe she can help you. The rainbow fish found the cave. It was very dark inside, and he couldn't see anything. Then, suddenly, two eyes caught him in their glare, and the octopus emerged from the darkness. I have been waiting for you, said the octopus with a deep voice. The waves have told me your story. This is my advice. Give a glittering scale to each of the other fish. You will no longer be the most beautiful fish in the sea, but you will discover how to be happy. I can't, the rainbow fish started to say, but the octopus had already disappeared into a dark cloud of ink. Give away my scales? My beautiful shining scales? Never. How could I ever be happy without them? Suddenly, he felt the light touch of a fin. The little blue fish was back. Rainbow fish, please don't be angry. I just want one little scale. The rainbow fish wavered. Only one very, very small, shimmery scale, he thought. Well, maybe I wouldn't miss just one. Carefully, the rainbow fish pulled out the smallest scale and gave it to the little fish. Thank you very much, the little blue fish bubbled playfully as he tucked the shiny scale in among his blue ones. A rather peculiar feeling came over the rainbow fish. For a long time, he watched the little blue fish swim back and forth with his new scale glittering in the water. The little blue fish whizzed through the ocean with his scale flashing, so it didn't take long before the rainbow fish was surrounded by the other fish. Everyone wanted a glittering scale. The rainbow fish shared his scales left and right, and the more he gave away, the more delighted he became. When the water around him filled with glimmering scales, he at last felt at home among the other fish. Finally, the rainbow fish had only one shining scale left. His most prized possessions had been given away, yet he was very happy. Come on, rainbow fish, they all called. Come and play with us. Here I come, said Rainbow Fish, and happy as a splash, he swam off to join his friends. So that book is about Rainbow Fish giving up something of his to make others happy. And so today, as you guys as a family at home or folks at home watch, you guys can make your own scale. And then you get out some paper, some colors, and then you can write or draw what you want to give to somebody of yours to make them happier and help them out. So that could be, you could give them a note, you could give your neighbor a can of food, you could give them a roll of toilet paper, you could give them an egg, You could give your sister or brother or one of your siblings or your parents or your grandparents something. You could write a letter to somebody that you might not be able to see right now, like a friend or a family member. So something you can write on your scale or draw what you want to give to someone that is yours to make them happy. And that's our story for today.
Our reading this morning comes from my colleague, the Reverend Elizabeth Nguyen, titled, "There is No Easier Way." I once saw a little sign carved in wood that read, "There is only the hard way." Many of us have been harmed by a theology that told us that suffering was a sacrifice that would bring us closer to God. Many of us were told that our suffering would redeem us, even when we knew that actual redemption would have been to be free from the suffering to begin with. Many of us are only here because of the sacrifices of others. So much of what is possible to carve out in this world requires some giving up, some letting go, some sacrifice. That is the truth of that little wooden sign. There is no easy way. There is only the hard way. In particular, the work of justice often asks us to do impossible, hard, terrifying things. There is no easier way. There is only this one hard way. Folks with more privilege sometimes get caught up here. If it's hard, maybe we're doing it wrong, we tell ourselves. We are lulled by our experiences of choosing between a hard choice and an easier one. Folks with less privilege know that many of our choices are between a horrific choice and a horrific choice. We learn to live with that and keep going. Many of us want to do the right thing, the just thing, the generous thing, and also to not have to give anything at all. We want to share our opinions, but not actually donate our evenings, our weekends, our doing dishes while on the conference call to get to understand the work enough to be able to offer meaningful thoughts. We want people to trust us and let us shape the vision, but not actually risk inviting folks out to tea, dinner, beers, or church to build a relationship that endures and carries us forward. We may want to post the cute meme without actually making the phone call to the city councilor or state representative. We want to be part of that powerful, courageous, game-changing direct action without the long-past midnight planning meetings, the messy decision-making, the frayed relationships, and the constant wondering if this is even worth it. We want to talk about being bound together in interdependence, but to not actually want to give our guest room to a stranger, give a paycheck to someone we've never met, or turn our schedule inside out to do what needs to be done. The word sacrifice might be too much mess for some of us, too tainted by oppression and coercion. What matters more is that we are willing to live our lives in the shape of what is being asked, not hope that what we are asked to do will fit the shape of our lives.
us ever to be faithful. May we still thy goodness prove. Come thou fount of every vision, tune our eyes to what may come. See the lion and the young lamb dwell together in thy home. Hear the cries of war fall silent, feel our love glow like the sun. When we all serve one another, then our heaven is begun. Do, 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 do. Come thou fount of inspiration, turn our eyes to higher ways. Lift our gloom and desperation, show the promise of this day. Help us bind ourselves in union, help our hands tell of our love. With thine aid, O fount of justice, earth be fair as heaven above. When we all serve one another, then our heaven is begun.
We are truly living in transformational moments when what is really important comes to the forefront and irrelevant things fall away. It goes without saying that we all need each other in this unprecedented, challenging time in which we must join together in dealing with the pandemic. As we think this morning about sacrifice, which is often perceived as a negative, we can shift our perspective to think of it as a positive, as an offering that is given for the sake of something else. In this case, our individual offerings that are given for the good of our family and friends, our community, our state, our nation, and the world. Ann Marsh and I have conversed in recent days regarding decisions, sacrificial decisions, that we have had to make for the good of those around us and for our community. In thinking about sacrifice, Ann shared an excerpt adapted from a sermon that she and partner Wade Wheelock presented several years ago. Ann writes, "These days we are all focused on the many things we have to give up to do our part to stem this pandemic, ranging from giving up conveniences to giving up connections, even to giving up our livelihoods. But rather than look at sacrifice as giving something up, Ann invites us to go deeper into the word itself. She reminds us that sacrifice comes from two Latin words meaning to do something sacred or to make something sacred. Ann asks, as we think about our sacrifices in this time of fear and uncertainty, can we think of these acts as doing or making something sacred? Does our sacrifice place us in right relation with the holy. She says further, this is not an original thought, of course, but it's helping me through this difficult time to think that what we are sacrificing now is in the service of the holy, in the service of something greater than our individual selves, in the service of compassion and love. Another important question to ask is, how do we make these sacrifices, these offerings of service, of compassion and love, without potentially sacrificing our mental well-being? A friend recently sent me some thoughts from 2 psychotherapists about the pandemic strain on our mental health, how critical it is for us to implement strategies for calmness and to avoid the downward, inward spiral that comes from doom and gloom scenarios. It's really important for me to limit the amount of news that I see and hear, get outside and out of my head, take walks with my dogs, network with friends and family, work in my backyard when there isn't snow, play and write music, etc. What things calm and center you? What acts remind you that your life is sacred and help put you in right relation with the holy? One of the therapists mentions that past traumas can resurface and typically do in times of great stress. Indeed, some of my past traumas are resurfacing, and I'm first of all reassured that this is normal. And secondly, trying to rework this resurfacing so that I don't take an emotional nosedive in an already precarious time. Just focusing on something as simple as my breathing or being present in the moment helps. Doing this numerous times a day, of course. So as we consider our offerings, our sacrifices of service, may we also remember to show compassion and love to ourselves. Our offerings can and should include ways for each of us individually to be in right relation with the holy, whatever we perceive that to be. May we find comfort in knowing that we are all on this journey together and that each of us has an important part to play in this time of sacrifice, this time of offering.
Sometime during the past week, or maybe just a little before, as more and more Americans were being asked to stay home, not go out, refrain from public contact with people, a candidate for a local school board somewhere in New York, I think, sent out a tweet saying that she was going to head out to the bars and the restaurants because she valued her social time, and ended the tweet saying, "I'll do what I want. This is America." Now, she was quite rightly what we call dragged across Twitter for her callous attitude towards the health and safety of others. And yet, at the same time, as I read that and thought about my own week, this week that seems to have lasted an entire month, there was a piece of me that said, yeah, I feel you. I get that. I've been asked to do something simple, stay home as much as possible, and yet in the process I have had to give up so many things in order to make that happen. I have had to make so many involuntary sacrifices just in this past week and a half or so. Just a brief catalog. I've had to give up church with you, my people. I've had to give up that energy I feel when we gather together on a Sunday morning. I've had to give up greeting you face to face. I've had to give up much needed social time with friends that we had planned for so long. I've had to give up my improvisation classes and performances, and that hurts. That hurts deep. And I'm sure we could make an entire service with all of you texting us or commenting into the live stream here on all the things that it has hurt to give up in the last week. We could do a whole service of carping and lamentations about our sacrifices. And that's the thing, is that it's easy. It's easy at a time like this, especially if we're feeling too isolated, to get too wrapped up in our own little worlds and let all those involuntary sacrifices turn us to sorrow, turn us to anger, turn us to resentment. When we become too self-focused, those sacrifices that we make start to feel like a personal affront. And we might be tempted to just go off and tweet, "This is America, I'll do what I want." I think it's somewhat appropriate that this time of involuntary sacrifice that we have entered into lands during the Christian season of Lent. I'm reminded a lot this week of my own Catholic upbringing and the sacrifices we were asked to make during those 40 days between Ash Wednesday and Easter Sunday. We were to give up eating meat on Fridays. We were to give up something, some vice of ours, something we wanted to change about ourselves during those 40 days. And growing up, I was surrounded by peers who viewed this time in our Catholic school as something of an imposition in their lives. Ugh, we're here again, fine. I'll give something up. And then we'd all pick some completely unscandalous vice, chocolate, swearing, something that we would agree not to do for those 40 days. And as Ash Wednesday came about, we would just start counting down the days, one by one, until we could get back to that piece of chocolate or that delicious swear word on our lips. The thing is, those sacrifices we were asked to make weren't meant to be an imposition. They were meant to be an act of making something sacred, as Nylea described to us from Anne's note, to make ourselves sacred, to make our relationship to our fellow humans sacred, our relationship to the world sacred. To give up that vice within ourselves was a chance to make a deep change within ourselves, to contemplate what it was perhaps that we were gaining by losing something. Now, much like my peers' response to Lent, now it feels like this is a time that just has to be got through. It feels like an imposition. I know it does. It feels that way to me. And while the choice to stay at home is, as much as possible, is my choice, a lot of the other things I've had to give up, I didn't choose. They came as a result of that one other sacrifice. But instead of resentment, instead of lamentation and sorrow, I wonder if I can take that pause I so desperately need that this time is affording me and come to some sort of appreciation for my connections, appreciation for what I gain in the process. At the very least, I'm already learning the truth of the old saw that absence makes the heart grow fonder. I look forward to the days when we can be in one another's presence again. I look forward to the days when I can go visit with my friends and socialize. It will taste all that much more sweet. But more than that, this contemplation that I am invited into, this appreciation that I am invited into by my involuntary sacrifices, is asking of me if I will view this time and the life I am living in it through a lens of scarcity or a lens of abundance. Through the lamentation and sorrow of scarcity of everything I have lost and am giving away without being asked. Or the lens of abundance that tells me finally how much the world gains by how very little I am being asked to give in the moment. The smallest coin for the largest gain for everyone. This is America, and I'll do what I want. And what I want is something larger than me. May we all find a sense of abundance in these scarce moments. May it be so. As we draw close to the close of our service, it is time for our offering, which we intend to continue even as we meet virtually. The month of March is dedicated to the new nonprofit Strong in Nature, which is dedicated to strengthening the lives of women who have suffered from sexual and domestic violence. The link to Strong in Nature, where you can make a donation to them directly, can be found below this video on our YouTube page after the service. Click that link and make a donation directly to them, please. May what you give bring you joy. And as always, may life bless us and keep us. The light of life shine upon us and out from within us, and be gracious to us and bring us peace. For this is the day. This is the one wild and precious life that we are given. So let us all find a way to rejoice and be glad in it. Go in peace.